Welcome to Priceless Takes.
Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 58. I'm your host, Luca Price, and joining me today, we have the full panel back. Welcome back, boys. We have Tyson McMullen, Oscar Hardcastle, and Mr. Ruben Lynn. Guys, how are we today?
Very well. Very surprised. Thank you.
Good.
Gutted about the Knicks. So gutted.
Yeah, listen, well, for those of you who aren't in Australia right now on a Monday, it is very sunny outside today, but I assure you it is very dark in my heart, especially. It has not been a good day for myself and my predictions. It has not been a good day for really any of us, except for Oscar Hardcastle, but he had a bad day yesterday, as did Ruben, I believe. So Ruben,
I've had a bad
Ruben, I
weekend.
think, unfortunately, has had the worst weekend out of all of us. At least Tyson and I made up some ground with Dallas's big win yesterday. But we will get straight into it, guys. We are basically, this is our really raw post-game reactions here. This is probably the first time I can remember doing an episode with the panel basically straight after a game of this magnitude, let alone two games. So we're going to get straight into it because we just watched one of the most jaw-dropping turnarounds in Game 7 history. Minnesota take down the Denver Nuggets, the reigning defending NBA champions, on the road, winning by 8 points, 98-90. Denver were up by 15 at halftime, leading 53-38. Minnesota has now claimed the title for the biggest second half comeback in Game 7 history.
Wow.
Now, off topic, when I was watching the Knicks game and I saw that the Knicks were down by 17 at the half, 15 at the half, and that the largest thing was 11 points, I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, the Knicks can do that easily. And then after I saw the way that the Pacers just did not let them back into the game, I was thinking to myself, maybe this 11 points is actually a bit harder than it looked in a Game 7. But no, it's really not, because in the very next game, Minnesota has decided to break it. They, at one point, guys, were on a 54-24 run against Denver. Jokic finished the game 34, 19, and 6. Jamal Murray, 35 points. Anthony Edwards, a horrible game by his standards statistically. He shot 25% from the field, 6 of 24. Finished with a near triple-double, 16, 8, and 7. Karl Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels both had 23 points. Now, guys, the big stat here, it seems to be getting everyone who is on a title run now. It's the 6th straight season in a row the defending champs have not gotten past the second round the following season. Now, Ruben, we haven't heard much from you the past few episodes. You have been busy, so I want to go to you first to get your thoughts on the biggest reason the Timberwolves won this game, and not only this game, but the series.
Look, I think the Nuggets have been very inconsistent, let's be honest. After Game 5, I didn't realize how important Mike Conley was, because when you rely on Anthony Edwards becoming a playmaker, his overall skill set becomes redundant, because not everyone can be a LeBron where they can rebound, defend, playmake, or like a Jokic, or like a Doncic. I think in this series, one of the biggest downfalls of the Denver Nuggets is MPJ's output. Because I pointed out in the Lakers series, he was averaging 23 and 8, shooting very efficiently against the Lakers. What if I told you this series, he's averaging 11 and 6, only had 2 games shooting above 50%. So when you don't have that output, especially with the output Jaden McDaniels had, when Ant was shooting so poorly, the Nuggets just couldn't do anything. And I think as well with Jokic, the Nuggets play well when he has a lot of assists. I noticed at the end of the first half he had 5, and then the third quarter I think he had none. And that's when the Nuggets weren't really scoring. Like the other players just couldn't step up. And I think that's what's happened throughout the entire series, which is why the Nuggets have lost. Like the Wolves have just been a better team.
Yeah, I agree with Rubes. I think that Mike Conley, this team looks so different when he's out there on the floor. We look at the games where he was out injured compared to the games where he's come back and played. It just takes that weight off someone like Anthony Edwards' shoulders. And I think also in this game, the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think the offensive rebounds were the same, but the scoring off the offensive rebounds, we saw put back by Cat. We saw put back by Rudy. They were relentless on these second chance points off the offensive boards, and I think they stunned Denver. The three, Denver's 3-point shooting was horrible, and they kept shooting it. They just kept yakking up threes. Jokic shot, I think, 10.
Especially Jokic.
Jokic
Yeah.
shot
Yeah.
10 and made 2 in the fourth quarter, as he does. But they just kept yakking them up, and something has to give. You got to change something when you're shooting that bad. Pump fake, go to the rim, do something else, change it up a bit. You can't just keep going back when your offense isn't moving. You can't just keep going back to these 3-point shots, which they are missing. So I think those are probably my main reasons why they lost. And the Timberwolves just played well, even with Edwards not playing the best game, but just played well, came back and just fought as we've seen them do. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. Just in comparison to the Lakers series, the Denver starters is way too inconsistent, just weren't really there. Normally everyone's having a little piece, doing their thing, but it took a while for Jamal to be who the quote unquote borderline all-star, that people claim. But yeah, look, Mike Conley definitely a big piece for the Timberwolves, but also just I think that mentality of the Wolves team is just it's just too high. Like it's elite. Like everyone's on the same page. You got the main competitor Ant leading the charge. I think everyone's just on the same page. The chemistry is just unmatched. Big man rotation. Gobert goes out, Nasrid comes in, fills it in like nothing happened. Yeah, it's just a better team. It's the better team.
Yeah, I think also, as Tyson said, Nas Reed, like I think the commentators were saying when Cat goes off and Nas Reed comes on, it's like nothing happened. It's not Nas Reed goes out there and scores like
Mm.
Cat just was. So I think he was a massive part of this win as well.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things that I thought occurred in this game. I think everyone touched sort of on different parts of it, but the biggest thing, I just was
Sound shocked,
completely
mate.
wrong on
You
this
sound
series. Well, I
shocked.
was, because after game five, I just could not see a way, and you guys heard me, so I could not see a way that Minnesota was going to come back in this series. And I just thought Denver had flexed their muscles and had really just said, you guys put up a good fight, but you know who we are. And Minnesota just came back and just hit them with the ultimate uppercut in game seven. But there's a few different things I really want to touch on when I look at this game. One, I look at Jokic's minutes. And I think Jokic, it was a combination of him only sitting 1 minute for the entire game and Minnesota knowing that. Because by the middle of the third quarter, he looked absolutely gassed. And you could tell because Oscar brought it up. He was 2 for 10 from three. And he was expending so much energy inside. They were just bodying him. It was a very physical game,
19
I thought.
rebounds.
It was a very physical game, I thought. And Jokic always does what the team needs for them to win. But like you said, Oscar, 19 rebounds. Like he just couldn't keep going and going
Doing
and
everything
going.
out there.
And in a way, just the way from watching the game, Jokic started jacking up a whole bunch of threes in the third quarter. And it seemed like, in a way, that kind of gave him more energy just from not being inside. Because for the first part of the fourth quarter, he started going at him again. But then in the middle, towards the end, he started jacking up threes again. And then he got back down in there. But I want to give some credit to someone who we slandered a lot in our last episode, mainly Rudy Gobert, because I thought he had a great game today. He was very active on the glass, and I think he made life very tough for Jokic. And we talk about Rudy Gobert. Jokic is going to get his. Okay, but I think in key moments, Rudy Gobert made Jokic's life very tough. And like you said, Oscar, I think Rudy Gobert killed Jokic on the offensive glass, particularly in the fourth quarter. And if Rudy Gobert wasn't doing it, he was right in there, and his rebounds were getting secured by his teammates. The Minnesota Timberwolves had won the rebounding battle 14-7 in the fourth quarter, and that took away Denver's ability to get offensive rebounds because they can get hustle plays sometimes too. And that also allowed Minnesota to get second chance points. The biggest one was Kyle Anthony Towns, where if he hadn't have put that putback in, you're down by 5 with 38 seconds on the clock and the ball in your hands. And Jokic was just too gassed to get across. Kyle Anthony Towns comes across from the weak side. And I think Jokic's minutes was the biggest reason that they weren't able to turn the tide, as well as, and I mentioned this in an earlier episode, despite Anthony Edwards, his lackluster shooting, they still fed off of the confidence that he has instilled in this team and the drive and the desire to win, because this was a team performance today. And it was two very different teams, guys. We saw the Denver Nuggets. They had their 2 stars. They had Jokic and Jamal Murray put up very good numbers, whereas we saw the Timberwolves, their star put up subpar numbers, but the rest of the team get around him and put in a shift. And Ruben, you touched on it as well. Michael Porter Jr. should be ashamed of himself, how poorly he played in this series. And KCP, he had a good game 5, but he should also be appalled about how he played in the last 2 games. It was absolutely disgraceful what they were doing, and they should be ashamed of them because they had good looks too. A lot of their looks were good. That was the big thing, especially KCP. Like, they've put a lot more attention on Porter Jr., and he's the one that's getting open for those threes in the corner where Jokic just finds him when he goes down in the post and gets doubled. They make those shots, they win this game because Minnesota didn't shoot the lights out from 3. I think they had 9 3-pointers made. They were at 28% for the game from 3. Like, I just think Minnesota hit another gear when Denver, I think, tried to take it out of their hands and put the game out of reach. And Denver got gassed and let Minnesota back into the game. And Minnesota had another gear that they could go to. And Denver, because they were thinking, we have just put them to bed here, they can't possibly come back. And they just said, watch this. And I want to ask you guys, I want to ask your thoughts. Secondly, do you guys think, very briefly, Oscar, I'll ask you first. Do you think Minnesota should be favored? You might not have them winning, but do you think they should be favored in this conference finals matchup?
Oh, 100%. I think that they've shown now they can go against the best of the best, and the Mavericks aren't the best of the best. You know, they're a good team, but Minnesota have shown that they've got that ticker, they've got that, you know, extra, as you said, extra gear to go to when they are down and out. So I think they definitely should be favored for next series. I think Dallas, I don't think is going to make it easy for them, but I do like Minnesota's chances to get into the finals.
Yeah, I agree with Oscar. After being the defending champions and after sweeping the big 3, those 3 scorers made them seem like G League players. I just think the Timberwolves have to be favored in this Dallas series, and they have what I still think the Mavericks don't have, which is the number 1 best defensive team in the league. So I think they should be favored.
Yeah, without a doubt, they should be favored. You're taking down defending champs, arguably it's the best record in the West, a really competitive conference. I can't see them just not doing it all, you know. So yeah, they should be favored.
Before this series, they've had that major confidence, and now after the series, they're going to have even more confidence as they just beat these guys. So yeah, I just think it's they definitely should be favored against the Mavs.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think so too. I am interested. The odds probably are out already. I think they are favored.
Probably.
It's going to be a great series. I think everyone's talking about the future of the NBA. Like, I think this is something. I think this series, I think, is going to be special. But at the end of the day, guys, I think Denver should be kicking themselves because I think they were expecting to win. I think a lot of the NBA world, including us, was expecting them to win. And a lot of key things, like Jamal Murray, as well as he played, in his second half, he wasn't very efficient. And he had some key turnovers. He got the ball pickpocketed twice off of him. Once by Mike Conley, once by Anthony Edwards in the fourth quarter. And little things like that are the differences. It's the small margins we talk about. Ruben, you look like you're dying to say something. Go for it.
Well, I just want to quickly say, like, it's funny you bring up Jamal Murray because I think he's been very inconsistent. And I agree, he had a very good first half, but he actually did the opposite. Like, He's usually quiet in the first three quarters and goes off
Yeah.
in the fourth. But then he had that very big first half at 22 points. But I think in a way he seemed a bit gassed too because, yeah, he had 13 points in the second half, but he just wasn't able to be that closer that he usually is just because I think he had that massive output in the
Well,
first
he
half.
did play 42 minutes, so I assume he
Yeah,
probably was
that's my point.
gassed. Yeah.
He had fatigue like Jokic. Exactly
Yeah.
the same thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, listen, credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Credit to all of us being proved wrong. And at least I picked the Nuggets and got it right in one series, unlike the three of you. You know, I actually thought about it the other day. I was thinking, because I was thinking to myself, and again, maybe another aside here. I was like, this would be great because I picked Denver to go to the finals in preseason. And then it hit me, and I was like, now I know why the three of them all picked the Lakers in the first round, because all three of these bozos had the Lakers making the finals in preseason. And it finally, I had a
Yeah.
light bulb moment as to why all three of you picked the Lakers
Maybe something to
in
do
the
with that.
first round.
Maybe something to
It
do
could
with
be.
that.
Anyway, guys, we will get back to our predictions for the Western Conference Finals, but I want to talk about the Knicks and the Pacers series. The Knicks got rolled in Game 7, much to my chagrin. The Pacers advanced, beating them in Madison Square Garden, 130 to 109, advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Pacers shot a playoff record, 67% from the field, and if you could believe, they cooled off in the second half and still finished with that number, 54% from three-pointers. Halliburton finished the game with, I think, his best game of the series, 26, 4, and 6. Both Siakam and Nembhard tacked on 20 points each. Nesmith with 19, Turner with 17. I think it was a bit of a reverse game in a way. The Pacers starters really came to play today, and they didn't rely so much on their bench. The Knicks, it was just an absolute disaster. And I thought a little bit of poetic justice, if I'm being completely honest. OG Anunoby in his return makes his first two shots of the game, lasts not even 5 minutes before being out for the rest of the game, re-aggravating that hamstring. Jalen Brunson, their heart and soul, leaves in the third quarter. It was a fractured left hand, which is brutal. Dante DiVincenzo, they tried to pick up the slack. DiVincenzo finished with 39 points, 9 3-pointers made, and Alec Burks provided a spark off the bench, finishing with 27 points. Now, the Knicks cut it to as much as 6 points in the third quarter, shortly before the Jalen Brunson injury. However, credit to the Pacers. They did respond while Brunson was still on the court, and Brunson did go off injured once the Pacers had got it back up to a 12-point lead. Oscar, the only one of us who was correct in this series. I will start with you because I'm sure you want to have a little soliloquy about how right you were in this series, and particularly how right you were against me and your analysis of a Game 7 and how Game 7s can be very unpredictable. So what is the biggest reason the Pacers won this series, Oscar?
Well, first of all, I think all series you've been pestering me about, I hope you're not picking the Pacers because
I was.
The Knicks beat Philly, and you were applauding me for trying to be different and all that. But the reason why I picked the Pacers actually, and I said this before, is when they're playing at their best, they are offensively, they are a well-oiled machine. They are unbelievably good when they are playing at their best, and they don't always play at their best, as we've seen in this series. They sometimes, or a lot of the time, can play pretty crappy. But at the end of the day, today they showed up at the MSG, a very scary stadium to have a Game 7 at, and they dominated. They were efficient. It wasn't any one guy. The whole team put in an effort to win this game, and I think that's why the Pacers can be a very scary team, is because when they do, when they are playing this team, their brand of basketball, the whole team succeeds. It's never just one guy. And as I said before, I think last episode or the episode before, I said when Tyrese is playing well, the team's playing well, and they did it. They beat. You can say whatever you want about the injuries, and New York wasn't healthy, but they haven't really been a full team pretty much all season, but all series as well. OG's been out and he made his first two shots and he got, he re-aggravated it, and Josh Hart was obviously not at his athletic best, and Bronson obviously went out in the third, but you can't take away what the Pacers did. Still rocked up to the MSG in front of a very scary New York crowd and played their brand of basketball. And yeah, I was right. I was right as usual.
Look,
We'll wait till we talk about Oklahoma.
Well,
have to give a round of applause to the Pacers. And as Oscar said, yeah, obviously injuries are a big factor, but you still can't take away from the fact that Pacers offense is looking pretty damn good out there. 130 points, efficiently as well from behind the arc as well, field goals. But yeah, no, the fact that like obviously the Knicks have had a injured roster majority of the last part of the season whatsoever, but Randall as well. But we've still went with the Knicks. We still started with them. But obviously it would help if the last two in the game that matters the most were available. I reckon it could have been a bit tight, a bit closer, but still have to give a round of applause to the Pacers. They just showed their offense.
Yeah, the best ability is availability, team, man.
It is.
Oscar, I'm not even a Knicks fan, but I think after the series I have become a Knicks fan. But just as a quick side note, Oscar, Embiid, 0 conference finals. Tyrese Halliburton, 1 conference finals. Anyway, moving on to yeah. Well, I know. I just had to say it. I know Oscar's an Embiid fan. I just had to quickly say it. Look, I'm going to try and be as objective as I can. Look, the Pacers' offense was really good. I can't lie. They made 29 of their 38 shots in the first half, a percentage of 76.3%, highest in the postseason since 1997. But when we look at it, of course it's going to happen because you lose your best defender within 5 minutes of the game, and then Josh Hart is not 100% with his injuries, and then Jalen Brunson goes down in the second half. So of course they're not going to do well. And look, the biggest reason they won, I'm going to sound a bit salty, but it's luck. Like, I was talking to Luca, I was talking to Tyson. The Bucks haven't been healthy. They weren't healthy all series. The Knicks weren't healthy all series. They've had the easiest run, and it still took them 6 games over the Bucks and 7 games over the Knicks. I had the Pacers against the Bucks, but they didn't even look that great. Like, of course you're going to have good offense when you're number 2 offense, and you're losing your best defender in OG Anunoby. So,
but he was out before, and they were able to do it.
Yeah, but then still Hart and Brunson are still injury as well.
The best ability is availability, guys. You can't take away what the Pacers have done today because a few people are out. Okay, the team's won with injuries before. They've won with injuries before.
Use great offense against injured teams, so it's like fair enough. Like
exactly,
you'd hope they'd play well against them, be injured.
Look,
LeBron in his podcast said you need luck in the playoffs, and that's what the Pacers have gone, and that's why they've made it to the conference finals.
But you still can't put it past what they've done. You still can't take away from what they've done. They went up to maybe the scariest crowd in New York and dominated in a game 7.
But that's not going to do anything when you're coming up against a bunch of G Leaguers. They're missing their best player. And they missed Julius Randle. They're playing Alec Burks. They're making him get 20 points.
Dante dropped 40 points.
Yeah, but they're making Alec Burks get 27 points. And they're missing Richard Robinson, which is their interior defender. They're lacking that size against Miles Turner and
Bronson
Pascal
still
Siakam.
played 30 minutes and shot 35%. Like, what are we doing here?
He hasn't been 100% all series.
Okay, well, you can't go.
But they've been healthy all series.
You can't go into a game 7 picking the Knicks when you know some of their guys are injured and now complain about how they've gotten injured. You can't do that. Okay, I picked the Pacers. I knew they had some injuries, and I picked the Pacers to win it. You guys were picking an injury-riddled team to win a game 7 at home, and that's fine. You're allowed to do that. But now you can't come into this episode and complain about how all these guys got injured when they were already injured. You can't do that. That is a ridiculous thing to do.
Okay, Oscar, completely fine, but you have to take in mind that the Knicks are 22-5 with OG, and that before the game 7, they said OG was all good to go. He got injured within 5 minutes, and that's going to be a disaster for them.
That happens. Of course that's going to happen.
I want to talk about that because this is where I think for the first time ever in this show, I actually agree with Oscar, despite me picking the Knicks. But I think the Knicks made a mistake with OG Anunoby. And I think that was very evident because there is no way that you cleared this man to play,
Did you see
saying
him
he's good
pre-game?
to go in a game 7. I did see him pre-game.
He
He
looked
looked
like he was
like,
on every drug known to man, every painkiller known to man going into this game.
but when you look at it, there's no way, okay, him lasting 5 minutes clearly says that he should not have been out on the court. And he was forced to go out on the court. And let me tell you why this is important, okay? Because the Knicks as a team, okay, having to adjust to that in the middle of a game is like having another nail in your coffin. And psychologically, that wrecks them, okay? But I think they should have sat OG Anunoby and the Knicks should have played with what they had, just like what Oscar was saying, like they had done in the previous games since OG Anunoby had got injured. Because the Knicks were still making this a series despite OG Anunoby not being there. And I think it was bad on the Knicks that they tried to make him go for game 7 because a blind man could tell that he wasn't ready to go. Okay. And so I think the Knicks did their own players a disservice by putting OG Anunoby out there because then you force Juice McBride to come off the bench. And now Juice McBride's going to be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, OG's out. Then you got to adjust your whole game plan back to what it was. And you're right, Josh Hart was banged up and everything else. But despite this, Oscar's also again right. I don't even think they would have won because the Pacers just had one of those games. They shot a playoff record for field goal percentage. They were absolutely just giving it to them. And I think you got to give a bit more credit to the Pacers. And I know, and I would be the first to say that I thought they were going to lose, but they were aggressive on the boards. Miles Turner, in my opinion, had his best game of the series. I was one of the biggest Miles Turner critics. I thought he was just getting absolutely demolished by Hartenstein in all facets of the game. The Pacers knuckled down when they needed to, and they made the most of the opportunity because at the end of the day, they smelt blood in the water when OG Anunoby went out, and they recognized that this is their shot, okay? And they took it. And you got to give credit to them for taking it because they still could have just lost the game, okay? They still went out there and they shot a playoff record 67% from the field
Came to
and
play, man.
54, and they shot 54% from 3. Now, that's really what I have to say. Jalen Brunson, I think, I did say poetic justice. I think it was just soul destroying. I don't know if you guys saw them pan to his dad. Rick's an assistant coach for the Knicks. When he got injured, he just had his hands in his face, as did everyone else. But they still kept fighting. They kept battling. But at the end of the day, it was just one of those days for the Pacers. And I think it's still a great series and a great season for the Knicks overall. Now, as sad as I am that the greatest prediction on this show did not come to fruition, there could be a 2.0 version of that prediction next year. So we'll have to we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, man.
But credit to the Pacers. We're going to talk in a second about them up against Boston, but credit to the Pacers. But it was very crushing to see the Knicks go out this way, particularly with the Brunson injury, because I do believe that the Pacers still probably win with the Brunson injury because Brunson wasn't having his best game. Neesmith was doing a very good job defending him, particularly in the last 3 games of the series, in a lot of the moments.
What a game
And
he played, 8 for 8 from him.
yeah, they all stepped up today. And I think it's a learning experience for the Knicks, if I'm being honest. Like the Pacers, they got help from their bench. And then today, when it was game 7, the starters said, no, guys, like you've helped us this series. Let us do you a solid and we're going to go out and shoot the lights out. So I think it should be a learning experience for the Knicks and hopefully they make some adjustments into next season in regards to injuries.
I just want to have a final point on the Pacers and what they did really well in. This series, I think, was about rebounding. So in all the games that the team led in rebounding, they ended up winning the game. And yeah, when the Pacers hustled for those balls and got those second chance points, that's when they really elevated their offense and they were able to do it in all the games that they won. So they were very impressive on the rebounds, especially how much of a grit and grind team the Knicks are.
Yeah, and I guess one more point from me too. It really speaks, and this is sort of what Oscar was saying. Like, even though like the Pacers won, like they shouldn't have won. Okay, but like Oscar is saying, he is correct. You play who's on the court, and at the end of the day, the Pacers played who was on the court. But the biggest thing I want to say, and everyone will probably forget about this because of the historic Game 7 performance, but when they look back on this successful series, they should all be like giving Andrew Nembhard like dinners out for the rest
Oh,
of his
yeah.
life. Because the New York Knicks should have been up 3-0 in this series.
I still
Okay,
could not
and
believe
he
that step
hit
back three.
an amazing shot. Okay, and we talk about margins in the playoffs, and that was the margin in this series. Because the New York Knicks go up 3-0, I don't care. I don't care the Pacers shoot. Well, I do care if they shoot, whatever. But they weren't going to for 4 straight games. Okay, the Knicks are winning this series. No one's ever come back from 3-0 for a reason. So I think the Pacers also need to get some credit for that, because even though New York did what they did, they kept on coming back. The Pacers also made the most of their moments. They made the most of their moments in Game 3 to keep the series alive. They made the most of it in Game 7 when they smelt blood in the water. Oscar or Tyson, if either of you want to have a last point before we move on to Dallas.
Yeah, well, no, I think about New York, you probably all think I'm New York hating on New York, but I think they are a fantastic team, and I think they're going to be back. And just the way, Josh Hart and DiVincenzo and players like that, Hartenstein even, the way they stepped up a level in these playoffs has been absolutely, brilliant to see, those guys step up. And obviously that Villanova link with Brunson, just seeing those guys together all step up in the playoffs has been really fun to watch. And it is a bit sad to see New York go, because it is very, I love seeing on TikTok and things like that all the funny things from the fans, and it is sad for them to go, but
yeah, well, I'm excited for next season
back.
because now New York's a basketball destination again. Okay, look, we talk about it in an episode after the playoffs, but I think they got to get rid of Julius Randle. They got to build around Brunson.
Oh, yeah.
I think most people can think that. I was for a reason. I thought they played better without Randle in the playoffs. I don't know how far they get with him. Who knows? But guys, we will have to move on. Credit to the Pacers. We'll talk about them in the conference finals. I want to talk about briefly, because we do have to get onto our predictions. I want to talk about the Mavericks and the Thunder. Okay. And I'm going to have a bit to say about this series, because I think as much as Oscar was right about the last series, I think I equally get him back in this series, because Dallas advances to their second Western Conference Finals in the last 4 years. They beat OKC 117, 116, win the series in 6 games. Doncic, back-to-back triple-doubles in the playoffs, 29, 10, and 10. Kyrie Irving had 22 points, 18 in the second half. Derrick Jones Jr. also had 22 points. Shea, what another great performance, honestly, by Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. 36, 8, and 3. Chet and J-Dub had 43 combined. A bit Denver-esque, if I'm being honest. OKC in this Game 6 led by as much as 17 in the third quarter, and then Dallas outscored them by 17 in the second half. And the big call of the game, Thunder up 1, 20 seconds to go. Shea fouls PJ Washington on a 3-point attempt. He makes 2 or 3 free throws, and the Mavs win the game. Now, Oscar, what do you think that comes down to? One word, starts with E. Experience, okay? Experience. That is the
a foul
reason.
That shouldn't have been a foul.
Yes, it was a foul. Okay, it was a foul. Gilgeous-Alexander. You know how I know I'm right, Oscar, because in the press conference, Gilgeous-Alexander regrets it.
Yeah,
okay.
I know it's a foul. I know it's a foul. I know it's a foul, but it's stupid that it is a foul, because you're talking.
It's stupid. It's a foul. I agree.
Let me break it down. Yeah, I know. I respect the rules, and I was listening in the game. I was listening to the retired ref or whatever who they call up, and he explained it. And I was like, okay, but the fact that if he let go of that ball, they're calling it a block, and it's not a foul. But because he held on to it and still shot it after he got blocked, it is a
That's why
foul.
PJ
Like
shot
what?
experience. PJ knows the rules. That's
No,
why
it's
he
no.
shot it,
He
bro.
didn't.
It's down
He
to
didn't know
experience.
anything. He got his
That's
ass.
why he
He
held
got
on
his
to
ass
it, so he'd
blocked.
reach again, and then he gets
He got
three
his
fouls.
he got his ass
Like
blocked.
you
He
said,
got his ass
experience.
blocked, and he's lucky that that Shea follow through hit his arm.
That's on Shea.
Anyways, keep going, Luca.
Listen, all I know is I called this series perfectly because I told you Dallas were going to go into Oklahoma and win Game 5. That's exactly what they did. I told you Dallas were going to go into Game 6 and win that game too, and that's exactly what they did. And it comes down, at the end of the day, it came down to experience because that's what Dallas provided on the offensive and the defensive end. And Doncic had his two best games of the series, not to mention Kyrie Irving, who I said needed to be more assertive. He wasn't in Game 5, but in Game 6, he had 18 points in the second half. He hit, some might call it lucky, but it still went in. That three-pointer was a huge three-pointer that rattled around the rim and went in. And at the end of the day, Dallas were just the better team, like I said. OKC, credit to them. Okay, they had a great playoffs. It's very interesting to see how they develop and what they do because they have a very young, talented roster, but a lot of draft capital to go after someone if they choose to. But they have a lot of time on their hands, but a lot of also interesting decisions. How much better is Gilgeous Alexander going to get? What do they look to do? But listen, PJ, well, I'm just saying.
What are you
I'm just
saying?
saying
What do you
I'm just
think, I'm
saying in the grand
trading?
scheme of things. No, not Shea. I'm saying what do
Oh,
they put
okay,
around
okay,
him.
oh, okay.
But the others for Dallas, Derrick Jones Jr. had a huge game. PJ Washington hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter when he had 0 points for
That
the
was
rest of
crazy.
the entire game. Okay, Kyrie came alive in the second half. Doncic hit some big shots. So did Shea as well. But at the end of the day, the biggest reason Dallas won this series is because of my favorite word, and that is experience, which now Oklahoma City has more of, and I hope this puts them in good stead for years to come. But go Dallas. 1-0, well 1-1, I guess, with Oscar's correct paces series, but I hit this one on the head. So
Yeah,
whoever
well,
wants to go next can.
Well, I can put my hands up and say I was 100% wrong with this series. I thought that the Thunder were going to come out and dominate, and they did at times. But the Mavericks never went away. They were pests. They never went away. It never got out of hand, and they always came. They always came back. Every time I thought OKC were going to win the game, or or they in this last game they dominated the first half and they were pests. They came back and Dallas did what they have done before, and they won the game and won the series. So it sucks to see a game like that end on free throws, but
I agree.
it does
For
suck
what
to see
Tyson
that.
said's right.
Yeah, I understand, but it does as a fan, as an NBA fan, it sucks to see that. But it is what it is, and Dallas played well, and I was wrong. And SGA, what a goat!
Yes.
He should have won an
Yeah.
MVP.
I mean,
But anyways,
yeah, no, I was right with the
we'll
prediction as
save
well.
that for another day.
I had Dallas winning. I thought it was pretty common sense. Apparently not.
Do you have them in
No, I had him
six?
7. I don't know how, but
Oh, it's
I had him in
okay.
7. But no,
I had
I
them
knew
in
they would
6 for
win.
the
I knew they
record.
would win. I was just, like I said, experience. Could have been done a bit earlier, but obviously some free throws. 50% from the free throw line wasn't really helping them. But yeah, OKC first seed for what? I don't know. They weren't really
Oh, bro,
threatening out
that's
there. They
crazy.
weren't. They really weren't.
The 1 point
Never,
win on free
never,
throws, never a threat.
not really. No, not really a threat. So yeah,
Oh, it's crazy, man.
yeah. Let's see if they get rid of Giddy next
Look,
year. Since,
Well, yeah, I think he's the first person on the
yeah,
chopping
he's
block
gone.
for them.
He's
Gotta be,
gone.
man. He
Giddy.
played
He's
terrible.
gone.
He fell
Which you
off.
hate to see, but it's all right. He'll find a home.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Maybe
Over-
back in the NBL.
Maybe
you never know.
overseas, yeah. Maybe.
Could be in Europe. Suits the play style over there. No, but look, as someone who picked OKC in 5 games, which is pretty bad looking back on it. I just thought like Shea is so good that he'd be able to get them over the line. But I think what this series came down to was experience, the E word. The Mavericks were just a better team. And I just got to mention an unsung
word.
hero of the series, Derek Lively, who had
Yeah.
12 and 15 in Game 6. And especially in, I think it was sorry, just one sec. In Game 3,
you go.
in Game 3, he's not a very good free throw shooter. I think Chet was trying to chase him around the court, get him to shoot free throws.
Well,
I think in one of the fourth quarters.
him.
Yeah,
think,
he was
yeah.
4-4 in the fourth quarter. I think. What game was it? It was in one of the games they ended up winning.
It was game
I think Derek.
3.
Hacker Lively.
Yeah, I think it was Game 3. Yeah, Derek Lively, I think, was an unsung hero of the series as well. And look, the role players in the Mavericks, they were really good.
On Derek Lively, before you continue, Rubes, Daniel Gafford was a minus 26 in this game, and Derek Lively was a plus 25. So when you talk about his impact, like that was the impact. Like complete turnaround with him on the court.
Yeah, look, he was absolutely massive for them, and the Mavericks role players massively stepped up. And look, for OKC, they shouldn't be disappointed. Like they got the 1 seed. No one predicted them to be a top 3 seed team. They're a young team. They're only going to build up from here. So, look, you shouldn't even be disappointed. You're ahead of schedule at the moment, and it's going to be interesting, as Lucas said, to see what they're going to do in the off season. Because I think you offload Josh Giddey, see what you do with your draft capital, maybe get another star with Shea, like a 1A, 1B. But yeah, I'm not disappointed. Like, and OKC shouldn't be disappointed, but the Mavericks, just had more experience, in my opinion.
Another guy I want to give his props to is, Derek Jones Jr. As a guy who's been passed around the league. He really stepped up, started for this team, really stepped up, and wow, what a performance. Yeah. What a performance from him as well.
Yeah, well, listen, credit to Dallas. We will start with the Western Conference with our predictions because now we're getting down to the final 4, guys. Minnesota and Dallas. Minnesota has home court for this game, which they did not have in the last series, and Dallas sees the same scenario, not being the road team, for the 3rd straight series. Now, Dallas and Minnesota, I'm not sure if anyone has the stats off the top of their head. Their head-to-head matchups this season. I probably should have done that
I was just looking that up
while you guys
now.
were talking.
Timberwolves are 3-1 against the Mavericks.
Oof.
This season.
Timberwolves are 3-1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That says all. That says all you need to know then. But look, for me, I'll start first. So I think this series comes down to a lot of things. And you guys are going to be surprised with my pick because I said after round 1 that I thought I saw something when Dallas beat the Clippers, which is why I picked them. Which is why I picked them to also beat OKC. And I am going to pick Dallas to beat Minnesota in this series. Because, listen,
random reports have been different, but Jesus.
No, I actually, no. Well, listen. I actually don't. We'll see. Because, look, we're getting ahead of the game here doing this episode today. Now, I actually think that a lot of people will be quick to jump on the Minnesota bandwagon. Okay, but I do not think...
With good reason.
Well, with good reason, but I just think there's something about this Dallas team that they are winning, okay, despite Luka and Kyrie have not had a single game where both of them have played well, okay? And they have assembled this team mid-season. They have assembled this team mid-season, okay? And they are literally learning as they go in the playoffs, okay? Now, I think when you talk about firepower... Okay, Dallas, like Minnesota, we just saw it with Derek Jones Jr. They have other role players that can come to the party. We've seen it with PJ Washington. We didn't see it with Michael Porter Jr. We didn't see it with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. We half the time saw it with Aaron Gordon. But we have seen consistently with the Dallas Mavericks this playoffs, guys, they have had role players step up, just like we have consistently seen it with Minnesota. Okay. And I think that when you talk about Luka Doncic in the playoffs, he's come up against the Clippers in the past 2 years that he's lost to them. Okay. He's been outmatched because he hasn't had the supporting cast around him. Then he got to the conference finals when he also was outmatched against the Golden State Warriors, who won the championship. And you're telling me that now Denver, who everyone still had probably winning the championship, is going out? I guarantee you, Dallas are going to make the most of this opportunity playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are in a similar scenario to them. And I think that these two teams match up a lot better than most people give them credit for. And I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to go 7 games. And I'm going to take the Mavericks in 7 based off how they've gone. I'm going to look at right now, while you guys are talking, about when they played these games, because Dallas have really gone on this run post All-Star break. And I think that's something that needs to be considered. So whoever wants to make their pick next, you guys can all tell me how many games Minnesota is going to win in while I collate some stats for you.
Well, so I had the Timberwolves winning in 6. You're saying the Mavericks. You've seen something when they versed 2 joke of a teams, the LA Clowns and a young Thunder team who had no chance. And then you're saying about all the role players stepping up, and you're saying
Wow.
how Denver's like their key players, their role players didn't step up. Does that say something about the Timberwolves defense or not? Because they're shooting very poor from the field. So I think you got to give credit to the defense of the Timberwolves. And then another E word comes down to expertise. The Timberwolves, they just look deadly. And I'm not hopping on the bandwagon because I've gone against them twice already. I've gone against them twice, and they've proved that they're the better team, and I have to go with them now against the Mavericks in 6.
Rubes.
Okay, I said at the start of the show I was decided, but I'm still very undecided. I know Kyrie Irving is 14-0 in closeout games, so that's why I'm a bit skeptical because I know how much of a good closer he is. So I'm perplexed between Timberwolves in 5 or the Mavericks in
and
7.
Ruben, don't do that again. You made a fool of yourself picking a
No.
team in 5 last time. I don't
No,
think that's a smart
I think-
idea.
6 is a
think
safe
that
bet.
6
is
No,
a safe
because- because I think of how clutch Luka Doncic and Kyrie are. I think the Timberwolves have got to get it done in 5 games or they're going to lose the series. I'm still undecided, but I think I'm leaning more towards Timberwolves in 5 just with that defense and that MJ
Okay.
narrative with Ant.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you and I've collated some stats. So listen, guys, you're talking about this 3-1 record. 2 of the games happened post All-Star break. Okay, the first one, Minnesota won 121-87, and that was at Minnesota. Now let me just tell you the starting 5 for Dallas in this game: Tim Hardaway Jr., Jaden Hardy, Rashawn Holmes, who's not even on the team anymore,
That's the squad,
Josh
man.
Green, and Grant Williams. So it was actually prior. I don't take it back. It was prior to them trading for PJ Washington and all those players. And the game that they won, in which Doncic and Kyrie Irving both played, they combined for 69 points. So have that, okay? This series, Dallas is going to give them a lot better run than you guys are going to think. I'll shut up
But
now
yet
because
we
that's all I
haven't
need to
seen
say.
Luka and Kyrie do that yet. So and we're still waiting.
Exactly, and if they've already done it against Minnesota, so they can do it again.
Okay.
To be
Yeah,
fair,
Rich.
can I just say Oscar said that Luka wouldn't get warm before Game 6, but then look at the Game 6 he had. He absolutely elevated his game, and that was the reason they got over the line in Game 6. So they could turn it on whenever they want. They're capable of it, so we can't just dismiss the fact that just because they haven't
You're
shown it
picking
yet
them
doesn't
in
mean they can
5,
show
so
it later
you seem
on.
to be dismissing it pretty
What-
easily,
so what's your
Rubes.
pick, Rubes?
Well, no, I've got Timberwolves in 5 or
Rubes,
Mavericks
you
in 7.
You can't have
You
both.
can't have it both ways.
can't have both,
You can't have
Rubes.
it both
You can't.
ways.
I know I can't. I
I'm
know I
bad
can't
with it.
decide yet.
Go that
I
middle
know,
number
I
6,
can't.
Rubes.
Rubes, you
Go to
couldn't,
middle number.
Rubes, you
Look,
couldn't-
I'm still
you couldn't-
50-50.
Yeah, Rubes, you could at least say it's going to go to a game 7 and you
Yeah.
can pick either team. You can't
Yeah.
have Minnesota killing them or Dallas winning in a close series. You can't
but
do
you
that
can
to the viewers at home, Ruben.
No, you can still like sweep or end in 5 games and all the games are close. Like look at Lakers Denver last series. Like they were all close games,
right.
but it still ended in 5 games. So that's my point. Like I think all 5 games, the Timberwolves win in 5, they're going to be close games. It's not going to be they're going to smack them up or anything. So that's why I'm
yeah,
still perplexed.
Rubes, listen, I don't want to talk about we got not long show left, but you could just say that you could have every single thing. You could say they have Timberwolves in 6 or 5, or the Mavericks in 5 or 6 or 4. Like you're leaving every prediction open basically by that
Yeah.
logic.
Yeah,
Well,
We'll come back to you,
come
Rubes.
back
You
to
can
it.
have
yeah.
a
Just
few
come back
more
to me.
minutes.
Come back to me. Come back.
I think
Come back to me.
I think like Rubes, I think Timberwolves or Dallas are going to win the series. Personally, I'm gonna, that's
I think
my
the winner will
prediction.
go to the
No,
finals.
I think yeah, I think that Minnesota's going to take it in 6 as well. You know, they just beat arguably the best team in the league, the defending champs. You can say what you want about Denver this series, but I think Minnesota showed poise and showed experience, as that was floating around a lot. And you know, even without their best guy, Anthony Edwards, their Michael Jordan, their Kobe Bryant, they still won. They still beat them by 8 points. Still beat these defending champs by 8 points in a game 7. So I think when it comes down to it, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are a better team. Their confidence is massive right now, and I think they take them in 6. I think Denver gets 2. Sorry, not Denver. Dallas gets 2, but they've got to play well to get those 2. I think, and otherwise, I think Minnesota are going to do very well against this Mavericks team.
So Rubes, what do you got, Rubes?
Rubes?
Come on, Rubes.
Sorry, Oscar. Just so what was your actual prediction? Minnesota in what?
Timberwolves in 6.
And what was yours, Tyson?
I had
In
6,
6
yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
In 6 as well, okay.
It's a good number. Really good number.
I
You know
think
what?
it's a bit rogue
You know
going Dallas after what we've just seen from the T-Wolves,
Yeah.
man.
You know what? I'm going against the Timberwolves. I'm going Mavericks in 7.
What are we
Mavericks in 7.
doing?
Yeah,
Yes,
I can't
What are
believe
we
it. Yep.
doing?
I'm
I
going- I'm back
can't.
So
in.
Rubes, do
I'm
you
back
think
in. I
the
can't wait when
Thunder
we're
I'm
back
back
better
in.
than the Timberwolves?
The Thunder's
Do you
better than
think
the
that?
Timberwolves. Well, no, Timberwolves are better.
So what
Timberwolves
makes
are
the
better.
difference when they actually
Okay.
goes?
Okay.
No, but what makes the difference is that they've got Luka and Curry, who are the most clutch players. So I think they will have a better ability to close over the Timberwolves.
Did we not just see the Timberwolves team close out a
Yes,
game
look.
7
Well, I think
against the
think
defending
Denver.
champs?
On the road.
Yeah, but Denver choked. Denver choked that, and
Yeah,
and
but
did
you
not
can
play that
you can
good.
say that. You talk about good closing out teams. Did we see Denver against the Lakers when they came back from 20 points, 10 points every game? Denver are a really good closing team, and they had the ability to close this one out, and the Timberwolves never went away. The Timberwolves didn't go away.
Yeah, of course. I'm not denying that, but like the Lakers were their own downfall in their own way, like choking a 20-point lead against Denver.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Seemed to be their own demise.
But you can't say that when Denver still had to get those 20 points back. You can't say they were their own demise. Oh, it's all the Lakers' fault that Denver won that game. Well, it wasn't at all. Denver put it on them and closed out the game, and the Timberwolves just did that to the reigning champs, who in the previous series, did what Minnesota did and dominated. Well, not dominated, but what I'm saying.
Dallas have 2 of the best scorers in the league, and if Derek Jones Jr. and everyone else continues to step up like they did against OKC, they're going to get it done in
I don't
7.
think they'll have that opportunity.
If it goes to Game 7, Dallas is
Yeah.
winning 100%. Dallas is winning. Kyrie is 14-0 in closeout games.
Yeah, that'll be
14-0,
14-1,
that's all I have to say.
Yeah, the 14 doesn't really mean anything because it's like we haven't seen, it's like it's a bit of an empty stat. I feel.
Well, people have been doubting the Mavericks. I know I have been. That's why.
That's why you're doing a Luka last year. Picker was he just dominated. Damn.
Yeah, look, I've done a little U-turn, but I believe in the Mavericks.
Well,
Okay.
listen, the one thing I'm worried about with my pick is it could be very Miami Heat-esque because I continue to pick against, I
I've
continue
learned my
to pick
lesson. I've
against the
learned my
Heat,
lesson.
and they kept on winning.
I've learned a lesson.
But also, I'm standing on business because I want to pick the Mavericks, okay? And I'm actually going to change my prediction.
is
Okay,
that
I'm
allowed?
actually
Is that
going to
allowed?
change
Can
my
we-
prediction
Can we do that?
to
Can we do that?
to Mavericks in 6 instead of 7.
Can we
I'm
do
going to
that?
change it to 6. Okay.
So
I'm going to
Can we
change that
do
to
that?
6.
Is that allowed? Is that legal?
I'm going to change it to 6. Now, guys, listen. In transparency, I have 10 minutes before I have to leave,
Okay.
so we're going to get through this
No, we
last
can just
one, and
change
I
it like
think
that.
we won't have as much discourse on this series.
Well, I don't know. I
Oscar,
don't know. We might. We might
Oscar,
after what just happened.
as you are the resident Pacers fan, Oscar, I want to hear your thoughts first. Will you be courageous once again and pick Indiana, or do you think they've finally met their match?
I think the Pacers played beautifully this playoffs, but I think their time winning comes to an end. I think the Celtics. We always call the Celtics frauds, but I don't think they're going to be frauds just yet against the Pacers. I think they're going to. I think the Celtics are going to dominate this series, and I think they're going to win in 5.
I have a 5 as well because just knowing the Celtics, they always end up losing the odd game, especially.
They
They always
always
lose
lose
one. They
one.
always
They
lose
always
one.
lose at least
Especially,
one.
especially if
And and that gives the fans of the
yeah, a
other
bit
team
of
a bit
hope,
of
bit of
hope. Oh,
hope.
they're choking again,
Just so they
and
can
then
get
they
flights
yeah,
sorted to
and then
Cancun.
they
Just like one extra day. Yeah.
yeah.
But no, I have it in 5, especially if Chris Stapps is out for 2 games in the first 2. Could be a bit interesting, but yeah, I don't see them dropping more than 1. So Celtics in 5.
Look,
Yeah,
I'm not going to
you
be
go, Rubes.
hesitant. I'm not going to be hesitant in this. I'm going to be quick and just say Celtics in 6. That's all I got to say.
Them on that.
Yeah, I'm going to take them in 6 as well. I'm going to give the Pacers a bit of
I was gonna
credit,
go
but
4.
I would not be surprised if it was in 5. But I think the Pacers will defend home court to an extent, more so than the other
Yeah,
two
definitely.
teams the Celtics have faced. But this is the thing. I just think that the Pacers are just a really... Honestly, I think both of these teams... I think
They're
we could
both
all
pretty
agree,
good.
even if the Knicks won, Boston still would have beat the Knicks. I don't think I wouldn't have taken the Knicks. Would you have taken the Knicks, Rubes?
Of course he would have.
Yeah, no, I would have. I actually would have.
Well,
Look, we
I
don't
would
have time to
have.
talk. We don't have time to talk about
Yeah,
it
we
today, but
don't.
I actually haven't been impressed by Boston.
Well,
Well, I'll talk about it later,
yeah.
but I just
Well,
haven't been
listen,
convinced by them
I
so far.
just think like
So
what Oscar's saying, and I think this goes back to Oscar's logic. I think working against him, but he's not really picking the Pacers because of this. I think when the Pacers are playing at their best, like they are so good.
so
But the thing
inconsistent.
is, if there's one team that has more offensive firepower than the Pacers, and who can beat the Pacers when they are playing at the best, because their best is better than the Pacers' best, that's the Celtics.
I
And that's
think
just why I think it's just a nightmare matchup for
I think
Indiana.
I love the Pacers, but I just, as I said just then, I think they're just farly too
Yeah.
up and down.
I do just think everything the Pacers do, the Celtics can just do at a better, more efficient rate with better players. I've even looked at the game. The Pacers and the Celtics have had some close games, but both Tatum and Brown average like basically 35 points against the Pacers this season. So they have absolutely just shredded them. And the one thing I do like from the Pacers is they did show me a lot more faith in them defensively, but I also think Boston defensively is just as good. And Kristaps will be an interesting one. I think with Kristaps being healthy for the whole series, I think 5 is a lot more realistic because his ability to control the boards
Oh yeah,
and just dominate Miles Turner. Like I think we can all agree Porzingis is way better than Hartenstein, and Hartenstein had his way with Turner for a lot of the series. And I don't think, even if Turner is playing at a high clip, I just think particularly on the inside, Turner's not a very good rebounding center to begin with. Porzingis has averaged, he's got multiple games with 3+ offensive rebounds when they played the Pacers this season. So I don't see the Pacers winning this game. I think the Celtics will win, and I think we can all agree.
Yeah,
yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah. So we have Celtics going to the finals. So the three of you will, assuming they go to the finals, have a correct preseason prediction. So fair play to the three of you for predicting that. And we will see. We have 2 sets saying Dallas. We have 2 of us saying Minnesota. Now Boston will have home court against both of those teams. Just like, oh, actually, no, they didn't have home court in the last time they were in the finals. But besides the point. So, we will see how this series goes. Very excited for both of them. Definitely more so the Western Conference, because I think there's a lot more suspense and a lot more... I think with the Western Conference, like some legacies can really be made in this series, particularly for Doncic, because I think Ant has already proven so much, beating the defending champs. I think even if Ant loses in this series, I think it's only his second season in the playoffs. I think Doncic, in my opinion, I think there's a lot more pressure on him and Kyrie, which maybe you guys might disagree, but I think there's more pressure on the Mavericks to perform in this series because of the experience they have with Doncic and Kyrie, and also the fact that I think what I was saying before, people are going to notice that this is their best chance to win a championship since Luka Doncic has been in their team.
Yeah, I agree. I
I
think,
agree.
yeah.
Well, that is all, everyone, for Priceless Takes, episode 58. I'm your host, Luca Price. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure to check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok. Both will be posted in the link. Thank you, Ruben, for coming back for this episode. It was lovely to have a
Nice.
full panel, and also to Tyson and Oscar for being here as always. I appreciate
Thank you.
your hard work.
Thanks, Luca.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I am your host, Luca Price, and we will see you next time.